Hello and welcome to our Ask Us Anything for Moxie Marketing. Looks like we have a couple people trying to log on. So while they're getting on, I think we can do a couple introductions. But to start, it's Moxie Week, as I mentioned, and we do this once a year where we try to do something creative and innovative with our clients and kind of open conversation, share resources. So this year we're taking a look back at what we've done the last 3 years that we've had Moxie Week, and we have some great resources that Allison put in a blog post and rounded up. So we'll be sharing that out along with this replay if you're not able to watch it live with us. But my name is Jeanette. I'm the founder of Moxie Marketing. And over the past couple years, we've launched our nonprofit marketing academy membership so people can access resources that we use for our service clients at a fraction of the cost, more of a do-it-yourself model. We've also launched an Etsy shop so people can get some of our best social media templates and things like that. Our team collaborated together to launch a children's self-love book. So we have put our hands in a lot of different areas over the last 3 years. But our focus is to connect people to love, resources, and just remind everyone to take a breather and to be a loving warrior for yourself from time to time. So with me today, I have three of my team members. I'm gonna kick it off to Savannah just to do a quick intro. And if there's any favorite resource you guys have worked on with Moxie Week in the past, feel free to mention that.
I'm Savannah. I'm the marketing technology manager. And I feel like probably my favorite resource was our um, Moxie week from last year. We did all the webinars, but we put together a lot of really great like workbooks for people to expand on their knowledge in like really specific areas. And like we had introduced tactics that people could like almost immediately take action on. So I feel like that was a really inspiring week to be a part of. And I really enjoyed all the new things we learned how to do while trying to run a week full of webinars. I'll pass it over to Allison.
Thanks. I'm Allison. I'm a communication specialist for Moxie. That was one of my favorites too. I really enjoyed the webinars night for all the reasons Savannah mentioned, but also it was a really great opportunity for us to collaborate with a number of our clients too in a different way and make them be presenters to share some of their expertise on some of these topics too. But otherwise, I think my favorite was a blog I put together, I think maybe maybe 2 years ago, that was just sharing different ways to promote self-love. And I think that was collaborative with members of our team where people shared ways to their favorite way to promote self-love. Jamie?
My name is Jamie, and I am the marketing assistant at Moxie Marketing. I'm not really sure off the top of my head what my favorite resource was, but um, I think the chalk drawings that you guys did, I really enjoyed. I thought that was a lot of fun. I wasn't able to go, but I like to look at the pictures.
Awesome. Thank you guys for sharing. And again, the webinars that we did last year are still available. So if you weren't able to check those out, in the description of this video, which will end up getting put on YouTube, we'll link to the things we're mentioning in case you want to take a look. And if you're joining us today and have a question, feel free either to come on camera, or you can leave a question in the chat and we'll make sure to address whatever thing you want to ask us. It can be personal, it can be business, it can be marketing. We're all open today. And we do have a couple questions to kick us off. We're going to try to keep this in within 30 minutes. So the first question is, how many of your marketing teams have flagged the serious changes in the social media market over the last 2 weeks? Considering that we've lost and then regained TikTok, and now folks are leaving Facebook and Instagram en masse, I'm expecting formal communication from certain vendors that has not happened. So I'd love for our team to kind of talk about what it is that we've seen in the social media space, kind of strategies that we're either activating or just keeping consistent, and then talking about the new platform Blue Sky and what we advise nonprofits to do there. So if anyone wants to jump in.
I can jump in first. To address the first part with TikTok, there's been talk about that for over a year. So I think a lot of organizations that have been using TikTok, which not everyone does, but those that have already kind of had either some kind of plan in the back of their mind for what they would do if it went away. And when it did, either people were just decided we're not going to do this at all anymore. We'll just put a pause on it because maybe it'll come back, which it did. Or they transitioned to another space. And it seemed like the majority of people primarily moved to either Instagram Reels or to YouTube Shorts. I know there's a good number of creators that also moved to an app called Red Note, but I don't think most organizations took that route. And so I think that was an easy swap for people to make. But whenever it came back, they just kind of continued business as usual because it wasn't gone for very long. But in terms of kind of why there's maybe not a whole lot of like communication happening around like what the plan is or where people are going to go is because it is so kind of up in the air. I think people are just waiting to see like if anything's actually going to be permanent. Because even with some of the I think they had mentioned like an exodus from Facebook and Meta, or just Meta platforms in general. So like Facebook and Instagram primarily. That also kind of seemed like it was more of a threat than necessarily like truly happening in mass. As a lot of the creators I know that I've seen said like, "Oh, I'm going to go away from these platforms in protest," but they didn't necessarily actually do that. They're still there and they're still posting. So I think until people are seeing like that there truly is an actual trend happening with a movement away from a platform, then we're not really going to see major strategy happening or major communication happening with regard to leaving those platforms or going somewhere else.
Awesome. Thanks, Allison. Does anyone else have any input, thoughts?
I think when it comes to like adopting new programs or platforms or leaving platforms, it really has to be kind of like a on a case by case basis for like your organization's like voice and the type of content you put out. I think that's also why people aren't putting out large statements is they're kind of feeling things out a little bit and it really is based on like how your audience is reacting. So I think doing some testing and just putting out some content on these different platforms might be a good way to test if you have the bandwidth. But if you don't, I think really listening to your audience and seeing that what they're responding to over the next couple months will be key. And I think that with the political climate and how a lot of these large tech companies are responding to things, there's going to continue to be changes. So I wouldn't feel like you're getting left out by not moving to a platform or moving away from a platform. I would really listen to your gut in terms of like how your content is performing and then make a decision there. Because I think Blue Sky can work for people, Threads can work for people, but it really is based on what is the voice of your organization? What kind of content do you need to create? What kind of messages are you sending out? And then I would also look at organizations that are similar to you in a similar sector to you to see what they are doing. Because you know what works for you know a large brand like Target isn't necessarily going to work for a nonprofit just because of the type of messages you're putting out.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I will always advise clients or brands to do, even if they're not sure if they want to, take initiative to start a whole new social media program or platform, is at least create your login. So if you secure your brand name, you have the handle there, but you don't have to do anything with it. So it's kind of one of those things you can secure, monitor and see how trends are going, and then make a decision to see if it works for you or not. Because sometimes people do like to take names early on in the social media game. I know it took a while for nonprofits and brands in general to get on TikTok. So there were people who were taking advantage of getting usernames at that time. And so then, once it was proven like, hey, this is a really big platform now for this generation or this target audience, people started to get on it more and more. So if you have your name, you're good. Another question about social media is when creating graphics for social, excuse me, do you make three versions of each graphic based on size? And I think that might be a good question for Allison because she,
Yeah, I think it really depends. And the biggest or the biggest reason I would say that you would do something like that is if you are trying to um, I guess one of two things. Either like you're creating like a social media kit where you're asking people to post on very specific platforms for those very specific audiences where it might perform best. Then maybe you could create three different sizes, but overall, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it just for sustainability purposes. I think that the only time that I see it really necessary to change the graphic size would be if you are creating something like a carousel where the way that images actually show up on the like multi view of images, like if it's cutting things off, then it might make sense to like change the sizing just so things actually appear the way that you want them to appear whenever it's published. But otherwise, I before Instagram changed their sizing from the square grid to the 4 by 5, the square seemed to work really well across all platforms for the most part, other than Instagram stories. Um, but otherwise, I think the 4 by 5 that Instagram is now using for the most part still works for most pages. But again, it kind of depends on if it's like a carousel. And then if that's the case, then like on LinkedIn, for example, things get cut off. So you can change that by like downloading as a PDF because you could upload PDFs and still have that carousel type of experience by getting to scroll. Or if it's on Facebook, things will get cut off kind of weird there too. So you can kind of just decide, like looking at how it's going to be formatted with a number of images in it to determine like what is going to work best for you. But I would say for the most part, I don't think it's necessary to change it across all platforms.
thanks. And I know Canva has a great option to resize when you need to. So if you are designing social media graphics in Canva, or let's say you're using one of our templates that we have, and you need a new size, you can click a button. It'll try its best to resize it and keep it looking good, but then you can always manipulate it a little bit. And it will just come with some time and practice. So I think that we've all gone through our learning phases of hoping an image size works, and then because we're doing, like Allison said, a carousel or multi-images, something funky might happen where we have to re-strategize. So the 4 by 5, I agree, is a good standard. Another question is, what website builder would you recommend for a nonprofit just starting out? And I'm going to toss this one to Savannah.
I feel like that's a loaded question, but I think that there's a lot of options out there. If you are really, really small, I would recommend checking out Canva's current website offering because you can connect a domain to it. And if you're already paying for Canva or you have a Canva for Nonprofits account, then you don't need to pay for the extra fee for adding that kind of thing. So I would recommend seeing if that works for you because you can create a really simple one-page website that gets people where they need to go. The other route you go if you really want to go inexpensive is going for something that allows you to create like a link in bio experience. So you can direct people to key pages. If it's on like you're trying to get people to your social platforms, that's a really good way to get them there. Or if you are maybe hosting your content or your donation forms on a third-party site, then you may not need like a full website in that case. But when we're getting people just started out, we have either put people on Wix or on Elementor with WordPress, and we find they're really user-friendly, really easy to get started, and the pricing is pretty competitive. So I would recommend starting there if Canva doesn't meet your immediate needs. But it really does depend on what your donation platform is and how you're connecting donations. So I would recommend while you're trying to figure out what platform to go with, make sure that it works well with whatever donation platform you're currently using and that there's some sort of integration or way for you to embed that donation form directly on your website.
Awesome. Yeah. And again, if you're just starting out and you don't have that donation part figured out, informational website like Canva is great. And then you can use that to get your supporter list going. And then eventually, when you're ready to fundraise, looking at something like Savannah said in the WordPress or Wix area. Another question is, what do you recommend looking for when hiring someone internally for marketing? And I'll take this one. If you guys have any other inputs, let me know. But traditionally, when I'm looking to hire, and one of the great things about our team, I'll say right now, everyone it has had long longevity. So Jamie has been with us. Is it 7 years, Jamie?
Yeah, since 2017.
Yeah. So we have two members at 7 years, and then Allison and Savannah have been around for more than I think 4 years each now, or three to 5 years, somewhere in that range. And I think there was a mix of things that I looked for. And there's one, you have to know what your goals are, like what you want this person to be able to do for your organization. Because I think one of the common trap falls is trying to get someone who can do everything marketing. And marketing, there's so many specialty areas, whether it's email, website, advertising, social media. And we've all wore different hats, and my team is really great about learning new things and playing different roles because we work in the nonprofit industry. It's kind of a give and take, but everyone does specialize in something specific. So I would say knowing your goals of what you need someone to do, and then making sure you're looking for that skill set. Um, I always have some kind of test that I give to people before they get hired on. And so it lets me see kind of the quality of their work, their understanding of a task. I ask them to time it. It's a paid opportunity. So people do get paid for the time that they're putting into a task. And it gives you a really good understanding of what they can produce. And then the second half for us is always somebody who is purpose driven. And so if they are connected to like the nonprofit world in general or have a passion for wanting to help people, it goes really nicely. It's like you can't have one without the other. And I think that's really the key to success is looking for both that skill and passion. And I think that's why we've been able to build such a great team. Does anyone have anything else to add? No? Okay. Another question is, how do you add a link in an email that allows someone to add an event to their calendar, especially when your audience uses different calendars? So this is more of a technical question. Savannah, do you have any tools or recommendations?
Yeah, I do know that some calendaring tools do have links that will work relatively universally, at least will work for um, like the primary calendar programs people use. What we use though is Add Event. It allows us to create an event calendar. You can actually create multiple calendars if you have a paid account. And then it'll allow you to generate a quick share link in a landing page. So someone could click after that and add to their calendar. But it'll also generate a piece of code that you can pop into an email that has multiple links for each of the most common calendar programs. Someone could click to add directly from the email. I've seen success and failure with this, with people not either formatting it right or it looking strange on mobile. So we often just link directly to Add Event, but they do have a lot of different tools you can use to share that. I'm sure they have competitors, but we've been very happy with them. So that's the one that we use.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. And then another question is, we frequently have volunteers posting about current needs on social media, which is appreciated, but their messaging doesn't always align with our preferred tone. What do you recommend doing to address this issue? Allison, do you have any insight there?
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts with that, but I think one potentially, I don't know about easy way to help that, but certainly a way that could be effective is by developing like a social media toolkit for your volunteers. So it gives them graphics they can do to talk about. So if you're talking specifically about what your current needs are, then, or that's what they're wanting to talk about, then give them those templates to work from that already have captions that they can customize and graphics as well. And so you are kind of ensuring that they're meeting your preferred language and tone that way. But otherwise, I know that we've seen some nonprofits have like a what's the word I want to use? Like a not an advocacy program necessarily, though that too, but more like an ambassador program is the word I was looking for. So you can kind of onboard them to learn a little bit more about like what you're currently doing, what your needs are, how to talk about it, and in what spaces to talk about it, those sorts of things. So there's a number of ways you can go about it, but I think that just finding an opportunity to get everyone on the same page would be the best, because they're talking about that with the right intent. So just giving them the tools to do it in a way that's effective and meeting the tone that you're looking for.
Awesome, great. And I think even having your volunteers make a note at the bottom of a caption, like posted by maybe it's like Kelly H, and then there's parentheses or something that indicates that person's a volunteer. That can also be powerful. I know a lot of companies will do that in their customer service. Like if you're contacting a big company, they'll like personalize it by signing off with whoever is giving that customer service because it could change from day to day or between shifts. And so you might end up talking to three different people within the course of an inquiry that you make to a brand. And so I think if you are open to having, content being shared by volunteers, like Allison mentioned, make sure they're getting the training and templates and things that set them up for success. But then I think your audience will give a little grace when they hear different tones because they'll know that it's coming from different people that are supporting you. And then last question, because it looks like we have about 5 minutes left. Excuse me. Any tips on combating burnout? So we know burnout is big in the nonprofit industry. I know in our company, we have implemented some things to make sure we get space and breathing room that we've shared in past Moxie weeks. And just want to see, like, from our team. And I think Savannah and Allison last year hosted a workshop specifically for this. So maybe you guys can mention that and then any techniques that you have to encourage people to stay, I don't stay hydrated, but stay stay fresh.
Yeah, we did do a session last year that was on like planning a successful year, and there are some really helpful tools in there, including some tips on calendar blocking and creating space to do the work you need to do. So I'd highly recommend checking that session out. We have a workbook for that that'll walk you through planning out your year and planning out your schedule. I think there are so many different things you could do, but I think right now my biggest tip for combating burnout is being really mindful of scrolling. We really recommend people spend time on social media, consuming social media to understand social media, but that can get really overwhelming. And also sometimes it can actually impact the quality of your work. If you consume too much, it can feel like you need to copy everyone, and that can be also really emotionally taxing, just feeling like you're not doing enough based on what you're seeing everyone doing. So I recommend setting aside specific times to scroll on social if you're looking for inspo or you're engaging with other community members, and just being really mindful of how much time you're doing that and on what platforms you're doing it on. I often find like I will start on one platform and then move to the next one. And then all of a sudden I realize I've been on like one platform for way too long. And just that feeling can contribute to a sense of burnout. And it can make me not want to be near my phone. So over the last couple months, I've gotten really good about setting aside specific times for doing that and making sure that I'm checking in with myself or setting a timer. Because I think that endless scroll, especially with the news cycle, it can just be all a lot all at once. Um, and that really does tie into that calendar blocking section we have in that webinar, which does walk through how you can block out that specific time for engaging and sourcing inspiration.
Yeah, and also related to like the calendar blocking bit is not just blocking off time to do certain tasks and to perform certain work, but also to block off time literally for yourself to go take a walk or to like go, just walk or do a workout or something for a little bit. So it's really easy to get tied to your desk. And unless you set that time aside and get the reminder, it's like, okay, it's time to get up and do this thing I promised myself I would. Um, but without the guilt, like if you don't get there, of course, like sometimes we just don't, and we feel guilty about not doing the thing we want to do too. But But otherwise, another great tip that I have found really effective for myself, and I know not everyone has this ability, but separating work and life where you can. And so for me, I have a work phone and a personal phone, and that separation really helps me just like put it aside, be like, okay, done with work for now. And I can still have my phone to communicate with my people, but without, like being the bombarding of notifications from work accounts. But if you don't have that, which I know a lot of people don't, is to set up a time. Like I know, like an iPhone, for example, you can set up like work mode or sleep mode, etc., and you can have it do certain things during that time and not do certain things whenever it's not on. So you could have like certain notifications only pop up during the time that you're in work mode, for example. So you will only get notifications from like your work email, for example, or from social media or whatever it might be. So however you can kind of like compartmentalize, I guess, like work versus you yourself. I think that is important to do.
Yeah, and I'll just add, being an advocate for yourself, like you are advocating for the people that you are serving and helping. And sometimes that means, you might feel overwhelmed, but you have a huge to-do list, so you don't really take the time for yourself because you're just so focused on helping others. I'm just pausing that to fill your cup up, whether, like Allison mentioned, it's a walk or just asking yourself what you need in that moment. Could be a breather, just something to reset, because if you keep operating under a lot of stress, it is going to lead to burnout. But if you can give yourself those little pauses and advocate for yourself for what you need, it will help you. So we will link different resources that we've created in the description of this video. And just as a teaser for tomorrow, we do have a fun freebie coming out about annual reports. So whether you are working on yours from 2024, or maybe just looking for some innovative things moving forward, Savannah on our team has developed an awesome checklist for you. So we'll be sharing that out via email tomorrow, but want to give you guys just a little bit of a heads up that that's coming your way. And again, we'll link that in this video too. So before we sign off, did anyone have any final thoughts or feedback? No? Well, for those of you who joined us live, thank you for joining. And if you're watching the replay, thanks for watching the replay. Feel free to leave comments. And if there's additional questions that come up, let us know and we'll be happy to answer them. So thanks for your time. Bye.